welcome back to Friday 15. So today, my guest today is Kasey Kaumans. He is Regional Sales Manager from Listen Technologies, which is an assistive listening technology company, and we'll hear all about it soon. But first, we can only really talk about assistive listening if we talk about COVID. So trigger warning, we have to go there. Okay, because nothing else made all of us as a collective society understand that experience to be in a situation and I cannot hear the other side. Can't hear you. So it's that awareness that has certainly impacted assistive listening technologies. So Kasey, welcome to the program and tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Happy to be here. It's a pleasure on this Friday. I'm in Philly, so I just experienced a little bit of an earthquake a minute ago. So what a start to the day, right? Yes. But yeah, so my name is Kasey Kaumans. I'm the regional sales manager here at Listen Technologies for the East Coast. My tenure here is 17 years. So I've been at Listen for quite a while. Been through a lot of ebbs and flows of how assistive listening sometimes is perceived in the marketplace, but it's been a pleasure for me to have this experience at this company. It actually came twofold because I did go into audio engineering by default. And then my older brother, who's 11 months older than me, he actually was born profoundly deaf. So I grew up just kind of naturally. He's a big movie fan. So when we went to the theaters about how to do accessibility and how to cater to someone that is profoundly deaf and have them still have the same experience that most of us would go into a lot of these venues. So when I saw Listen, it was like a perfect marriage of what I wanted to be in my career plus what I've kind of grown up with. So,
yes, and absolutely. Yeah. And then going back to this idea of how we've shifted our awareness about it, and particularly you being so immersed in it on a personal level and a business level and a career level. First of all, did COVID change our awareness? Is my premise correct? What's your impression about it?
So that's a very good question. It did. Well, actually, let me take a step back. Yeah. But I think what really happened with it wasn't necessarily COVID itself. I think two things happened. One was as we kind of obviously most of our technology, by the way, is used in public areas. So people that are gathering, joining. So whether it's a house of worship, a classroom, a movie theater, performing arts venue. I mean, I could go on about anywhere where it's gathering. That's where 99% of our solutions are kind of sold to is helping people hear in those situations. So obviously when COVID happened and none of those were happening, that was kind of a shock to us. And so what I've seen personally as kind of in the last couple of years here is as we go back into these public spaces, what's happened? And I think what's happened was a higher, more acute sense of how do we make this experience safe for everybody? How do we make sure this is inclusive for everybody? So we want to offer something for everybody to kind of have the same experience. So I think that's happened. But at that same time, we've also kind of introduced some new technologies that really kind of help cater into a more feasible accessibility, if that makes sense, which obviously we
yes, absolutely. And talking about that technology and that shift around it as well. I'd say in addition to our awareness about people who need that type of accommodation, it's also our comfort level with audiovisual technologies. AV, everyone knows means audiovisual. Right. Yeah. Conferencing is not something in the boardroom, but even a kindergartner knows how to set up the monitor and the system. So you have people in houses of worship or in higher ed who were not comfortable including extra level of audio technologies into their learning or communication experience, and now they're more comfortable.
Yeah. So one thing that I've seen, and that's why I think maybe COVID sometimes maybe kind of expedited the inevitable here in some senses, but the classroom experience is a perfect example where a lot of people that do specify or that do use us as far as the venue, a lot of times they know that if there is a public gathering area where integral audio is essential to the space, you have to have an assisted listening system of some sort. So what happened in the classroom scenario, especially in the last several years, is they've kind of almost back-ended themselves to needing to be compliant. But it just shows and kind of exemplifies that there's been so many areas where the evolution of AV has grown so much. A classroom that's, a capacity of 20 students, a smaller classroom, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they didn't really have any audio. They might have had maybe a DVD player or something playing, but now there's an immersive AV experience into all these, whether it's virtual learning, whether it's just the curriculum is coming in a more of a digital format. What's happened though is, they've kind of needed to then back end themselves into needing to be fit the law.
So talking about that, backing yourself into a need. There's obviously also a regulation and compliance components. So can you share with us what does the regulation say about assistive listening?
So as far as what the actual regulation is, a couple of misnomers. One that's actually been somewhat new is there's no minimal capacity to the room. It used to be 50 and over. So now there's, you could have a capacity of 2, for instance, and they would still, if there's integral audio in the space. So that's kind of the bullet list here is there's integral audio in the space is number 1. And then number 2, as long as it's a public area and as long as it's gathering as well. So
and this is this is codified, written, legal in the ADA. Where is this?
It is in the ADA guidelines. So the same type, the same type of ADA section that discusses wheelchair ramps, handicap spots outside of a venue. Chances are actually kind of the easy way, because you could get into kind of the fine details of when assisted listening systems are required. But more than likely, if there's a handicap spot in the parking lot of the venue they're entering, more than likely, technically, there probably is a spot where you would need to have an assisted listening. That just shows and illustrates how far AV and integral audio have been kind of integrated into spaces compared to just several years ago.
So breaking it down. So according to the regulations, if there's a room that is equipped for integral audio, that means there's an AV system placed in the room. It's not just walls, ceiling. I mean, would you call that a microphone? What's the definition of integral audio?
Good question. So most of the time, I mean, the conventional low-hanging fruit of that is, hey, I have someone speaking into a microphone. There's maybe a set of speakers within a room that amplify any type of audio. The education space is big because integral audio. So if you have audio coming off of an HDMI panel through a laptop or a monitor, that counts as integral audio in that classroom space.
Any control panels. If you had that audio going into some type of control, it's considered integral audio. That room space can be a huddle space fitting 2 people.
Correct. Yep.
And then it has to have some type of assistive listening technology in that integral audio.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's it, and that's what I meant is going back to your original point at the top of the call about what did COVID do to play a part of that. I mean, it's been, like I said, expedited. What I feel is inevitable is there's just so much AV at our disposal, at the tips of our fingers.
Saturated, yes. I mean, every classroom, if their funding or if their philosophy allows it, they're trying to get hybrid in the classroom, and that therefore you also have to get that assistive listening technology.
Yep.
So what's new? Tell us what's new.
So it actually comes at a perfect time because so we talked about the legality portion of it, and a few minutes ago I kind of said there's something that makes it a little more feasible. What I've seen, and another thing that I think maybe is kind of a rise from COVID is I kind of deem it as the rise of the QR code. So what I mean by that is probably our hottest technology at the moment is actually a Wi-Fi based audio over the network system. And why this is important, why this is kind of getting all the attention is because when you look just pragmatically speaking at how easy is it for a student or someone that goes into a performing arts venue or an auditorium, how easy is it for them to request an assisted listening system? So the Hearing Loss Association of America, the HLAA, deemed that pretty much 25% of Americans have some sort of hearing loss that needs some sort of augmentation. So, but if you ask me in my 17-year tenure, how many is 25% of the population utilizing devices when they go to a public venue? Obviously, we all know the answer to that is no. So part of what we've been really trying to figure out is why do people either shy away from it, or they don't know that this exists. So part of it is obviously messaging and awareness. The other part of it is feasibility, and technology is the backbone of that. So with our Wi-Fi line, what we've already seen in the couple of years that we've had this solution is, if you could just have your own smart device, you see a QR code, something, you know, whether there's a placard, or I've seen some really interesting scenarios where they say, okay, if you need to listen to me, even if you're not hard of hearing, it might be just an acoustically challenged room, or the audio might be a little bit suspect in this room. I still need to hear. How can I do that? If they know that they could just QR code and download an app and jump onto their own Wi-Fi network to listen to it, and listen to it on their own device, that's a complete game changer, and a complete change of how assisted listening is actually perceived.
Yes, and I'm thinking about what you're saying earlier. Your brother wants to go to the movies. The process, you have to go to the guy or the person in charge of the locker room or whatever it is that has the device, and get it.
Yep.
And now you're saying there is an audio enabled channel that is dedicated to assistive listening.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly it. So I was working with a higher education professor in a specific school a couple months ago, and they did kind of what I've heard a few times, where they go, okay, we had to meet the law. We had to meet the letter of the law. So we bought a whole bunch of your RF system body pack receivers. They hid in a closet or a drawer, and no one really used them. I think when I asked him, he said, yeah, I think we've used it 4 times in 2 years. And so the same professor who's kind of an advocate of assisted listening, he was also very soft-spoken. So he kind of knew that there were some students where even talking to a microphone, it might have been a little bit convoluted to hear him. So he put the QR code to the Listen Everywhere app on the very top of his syllabus. And at the beginning of class, he told all the students, if you have trouble hearing me, here's a QR code. It'll bring you to an app that you download. Make sure you're on the same network, and then you'll be able to listen to me. And he says students use that every day.
You can see it. You can probably track it. You know, all you have to do is have your own listening device, your own app, which everybody has, and suddenly you can connect so easily. Just think about accessibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I meant is it makes the accessible more accessible. And I know that there are a lot of puns there, but it really is something that it makes it so much cleaner and easier for someone to use. And that's, at the end of the day, like you said, there's so many people that have hearing loss that why don't they utilize these more? And so this is a big change to that. And by the way, and if before the pandemic, you know, we had a Wi-Fi system then, but the amount of people that were willing to use a QR code or something like that, that's even changed. So the timing of this technology for the marketplace demand right now is perfect for what it is too. Right.
So if you already have integral audio, you have the room set up, just add that layer. Layer, and then suddenly you've opened up, even in terms of your attitude towards the students or towards your worshipers or towards anybody in the room.
Correct.
And which also makes me think of these other applications. So even if you're not hearing impaired, having an audio experience that you can go onto with your own device, there's so many applications. Give us some fun ideas. Tell us what.
So my personal favorite, I'm a big baseball fan. So, you know, so not every single MLB stadium right now, even though that is something I'm working on, but there is going to be a time where you could go to every baseball stadium and listen to the play-by-play on your phone right there. We see a lot of this also for interpretation. So you could actually you could file an actual interpretation channel, which is big in a lot of educational facilities that English is a second language. It's a really good accommodation for them. We also sell this into a lot of sports bars and fitness centers. So if you think about just high level watching, you know, there's a myriad of TVs. And if you walk into a fitness center, maybe you're not going to be tethered directly to a treadmill. Maybe you want to go around and do free weights or stretching and whatnot, but you want to listen to an audio source on a TV that's present in that room. This is an excellent way to do that too. So, and then you could do high fidelity stereo audio. So theaters love this because you're getting a full immersive musical experience going through this as well. So it's capturing that audio right there. It's not just for spoken word.
Right. And if you think about it being part of the network also knows where you are.
Yep.
So you can really fine tune and make this location aware auditory experience no matter where you are in a facility,
you got it spot on.
Yeah. You're in a museum, in anywhere. I mean, you can just make it really customize and tailor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We also have a beacon that is proximity based, so you could actually set the parameters to where you won't hear the audio go through until you're within that proximity. So that's for security. So you could do multiple classrooms, and you can make sure that, hey, if you're a student that's going into the 9 a.m. classroom, that's at classroom 1300, you can know that's the only way that they're going to get that. And then in the museum experience, it's all autonomous. You could walk from space to space, and that proximity cues in the audio on your own smart device. So it makes it really convenient, really easy for the user to use in that sense.
Yeah. So very briefly here, and then we do have a question from our audience. So grants and funding. So I assume it's covered, and I was speaking to our amazing Trudy Van Kirk, who works in our office and knows everything about purchasing and grant funding.
Oh,
and yes, and she was, if Trudy, if you're there, you can comment on LinkedIn and we can see it. And she was saying that in Pennsylvania, the Department of Ed does allocate some funding for this, and there is a way to access it. There's certain parameters. There's cooperative purchasing to get competitive pricing on COSARs or PEPM. If you know of any sources or any ways to afford it.
Yeah. So on the educational level, you said that the co-stars, and there's a lot of different ones that I've seen firsthand. The venue also does get tax breaks for having assistive listening systems implemented. But yeah, there's a plethora of ones. I mean, like what Trudy said, I think it probably leak it out, but there's a lot that are available on this.
And we do have a question from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. The system is as reliable as a Wi-Fi network for these solutions. Do you recommend Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7?
So that's a very good question. So it actually doesn't matter. In fact, most of the time when we demo this, it even works on 2.4. The server that we offer does the conversion for you, and then it's when you send it out on the internet or on your network, it doesn't really care about which Wi-Fi protocol or standard it goes on. It's very small bandwidth. So like I said, we across the board, there's no preference whether it's 2.4, 5, or even on Wi-Fi 6 or 7. So it's very, very little bandwidth by the time it hits that. So as far as the performance goes, it doesn't really matter either. And we have a whole network configuration guide available.
Cool. So we're going to finish up with the resources and recommendations. So here's a Listen logo, Listen Technologies. The product that Kasey was talking about is Listen Wi-Fi, that over the Wi-Fi. There's a website to go to it, the QR code. Anything else our audience should know about this resource?
Yeah, so go Listen Wi-Fi. I mean, obviously I could talk all day about it, but we're also reintroducing a new receiver too. One thing I didn't talk about is obviously being ADA compliant. The venue does have to have receivers, so we actually are unveiling a ground-built, factory-built Wi-Fi receiver on this. So you'll be able to also hit ADA compliance, also have that available for those that maybe not have a smart device. You know, that still is somewhat prevalent here. So you have kind of the best of both worlds. So definitely check out that leak. It does a full overview here on what is brand new. There's a lot of new stuff coming out on this technology right here. In fact, in a month from now, there's a bunch new stuff like the beacons and other stuff. So it's a very, very exciting time for this line for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Kasey, for joining us on this Friday. And have a good weekend. No more earthquakes.
I think we're done. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.